Greetings and very welcome back to my humble neck of the YouTube woods. We are gathered here today, guys, to try and swiftly squeeze in a final video of this ilk, of this type, before the year is out. And truth be told, 2026 is already lining up to be a bit of a rough year, to say the least. So it could be the last one of these for a good while. But I digress. It is in response to Gull Payne's video on top 5 Capcom games, video response. And I believe it was started by a gentleman called Contagious Collection, I think. I'm not overly familiar with that gentleman. I stumbled across it with Gull Payne, and a few other people in the community then responded. And it was interesting seeing everybody's different perspectives, pixelated perspectives on the Capcom games. Obviously, some people were saying it's borderline blasphemy that some games got left out, which is quite funny, depending on people's taste and preferences. So yeah, that's the game plan for this particular video. And I'm more of a series man, but I will stick to the goal of picking one game in each series. And squeezing in at number 5, probably the jumper, the vegan cheesy jumper probably gives this one away, as you can see Guile and Cammy, eh? Oh, and in respect to Gull Payne and his Costa coffee that does be in the background of his video, we went off and got an early Costa today, of course, bit of a seasonal one as well, you know. Sláinte. It's a oat milk Americano. I'm not sure what Gull's favourite coffee is, but that's usually my go-to. If I'm feeling brave, I might put a little bit of coconut milk in it, you know. As long as it's vegan and animal friendly, I'm a happy chappy. But yeah, we'll jump straight into number 5, and it shall be Street Fighter 2. And it's definitely rose tinted glasses in that regard. It's the arcades from when I was a kid, and I have lots of fond memories of seeing older kids and teenagers and even young adults, sometimes old adults, coming into the arcade and playing the likes of Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. And I just used to think it was epic, you know, when you had these, particularly if it was a really close fight with evenly matched players, you know. I've stuck with the Street Fighter series over time, but Street Fighter 2 definitely kind of stands out the most in my mind's eye. So that's the one I shall pick from the arcade era, in at number 5. And I'm happy you got in there, because I do like fighting games, don't get me wrong. I've dipped into countless fighting games over the years. Mostly series-wise, it would be Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and my favourite Tekken. But I'm probably guilty of not putting them into my favourite lists. Fighting games, even though I really like them, they never seem to just edge into my favourite genre of games when it comes to picking these lists. So number 5, the classic Street Fighter 2. Moving on to number 4, and this is probably the exception to the rule, because I've only played one game in this particular series, but I was really pleasantly surprised, essentially. I went in with very low expectations. I thought this was going to be a kind of poor man's Dragon Age or Skyrim or something akin to that. It was gifted to me, and I think it was left there for a couple of weeks, possibly months. I just, one of those games I wasn't overly looking forward to playing, but said I'd get round to it eventually when I was in the mood for that particular genre. And the game is going to be Dragon's Dogma. I had a lot of fun with that game. The story was strange and unusual, and there was plenty to explore. This was the Dark Arisen version of Dragon's Dogma on the PlayStation 3. Ended up getting the platinum on it. I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed the pawn system. It was a very interesting concept. The combat was quite strange, the way you could grab onto these big behemoth beasts and hit them and fight them in that way. So yeah, I still haven't played the second one. There is a second Dragon's Dogma out. I will get around to it. But yeah, when I was thinking about it, number 4 is going to be Dragon's Dogma. So well done. Moving on to number 3, and you'll probably notice a theme now. This one has fixed camera angles, tank controls. Would it be considered survival horror? I suppose maybe the first one. A bit more reptilian than mutation or viral. But Dino Crisis. Very, very fond memories of the first and second Dino Crisis. And I think the second one was a bit more kind of almost had an arcadey feel to it, as you had a point system when you moved from room to room, and you could use those points to upgrade weapons, I believe. It has been a long time, granted. I probably only beat the games twice, and this is going back to the early noughties, a little after that maybe. But yeah, I've always looked at that as Regina. To me, I believe that's the main protagonist's name. I can't even remember the gentleman's name that you play as for a portion of the second game. But she always reminded me of Jill Valentine, like a redheaded version of Jill Valentine, if you will. So yeah, I had that puzzles, fixed camera angles, tank control, kind of horror adjacent kind of feel to it. And I'm actually going to go with Dino Crisis 2, which is probably an unpopular one. But I really like that game. Now, I liked both, don't get me wrong. I think Dino Crisis 1, the original, is probably the more popular of the two. But I shall pick Dino Crisis 2 as my number 3. And number 2, in a similar vein, in the sense of it has fixed camera angles and puzzles and so on, is going to be, and I haven't decided yet, but major bonus points to anybody if I do use this particular thumbnail, if they recognize that character. Because that character, in my gaming conversation experience over the last decade or two, is that he is just completely forgotten. You could probably say the series is largely forgotten, unfortunately, to a lot of people. And that series is going to be Onimusha, if I'm pronouncing that right. And again, it's kind of a spin-off of Resident Evil. It's the first game in particular. It had a very Resident Evil feel to it with the fixed camera angles and that element of horror in the sense of you're dealing with the Oni and the demons and so on. My favourite one, I played the first, played the second, played the third, and I did play another game. I just can't quite recall what it was called, like Dawn of Dreams, or don't quote me on that, but I really remember the first 3 for the most part, and mostly the first 2. And I do like Samanosuke. He's probably the face of the series, really, in the original, and he comes back for the third. But I think, to be honest with you, I'm going to go with Onimusha 2, Jubei. Not the most wholesome story in the world, if I remember correctly, and it has been a while. It's basically a vengeance story. Nobunaga Oda, who's made a pact with the demons, basically starts trying to take over and conquer Japan, and he annihilates Jubei's village basically and massacres all the people, and Jubei's out on a vengeance quest from then on. But he finds out, he has a few revelations, of course. He finds out that his mother, I believe, is an Oni, so he has Oni blood running through his veins. So an old enemy in terms of fighting the demons. But I really like the characters in that game. You had the kind of, I can't remember the names of them, but I do remember there was a bald monk-like character with alcoholic monk, if memory serves, with a spear. You had the more pirate-like character with the guns, and then you had a young kind of eager ninja character, and a female warrior. I believe she was actually Nobunaga's sister in the story that was going against Nobunaga. Yeah, potential love interest, but it's the story is actually a bit kind of, there's characters and the story itself is a bit peculiar, some elements of it anyway. I also really like the gift system in that game, that you could gift certain things that you bought from shops and stores or found on your adventures, and you could give them to your companions, and that would change the reputation of said companions and unlock various cutscenes and affect the ending. So that was really interesting, I thought. And you could get them right or wrong depending. I often got them wrong, to be honest with you. You just had to make a judgment call on who would like what gift, and if it wasn't really on the nose, I would more often than not get it wrong, and that person would be disappointed, and the reputation would only go up 10% as opposed to 100% if you pick the right gift, which was always frustrating but funny as well for me, because I'm like that in real life too. So yeah, Jubei and Onimusha too. And it's not just because the legendary Gogan Dantus, the greatest swordsman of all the demons, is in that game. But that's a big part of it. I thought he was a hilarious character, So yeah, I think Onimusha 2 is going to be my second pick. And of course, anybody who knows me and knows the channel, it's going to be a little bit of a no-brainer. No zombie pun intended there. It's going to be Resident Evil, and the game I shall pick, which is probably a little bit easy to call too, is going to be Code Veronica X on the PlayStation 2. There's another Capcom title here, Devil May Cry demo, eh? I even have a Capcom title in the background there, If you can guess, let me know what that is. It's not the best visually, I suppose. But yeah, I could have picked any, Resident Evil game that's close to my Irish heart, to be fair. But Code Veronica X is still probably, it is my favourite Resident Evil game in the series, to be fair. Closely followed by others in the series, because I'm so fond of it. But yeah. So that is my top 5, guys. Please feel free to get involved yourself. It is interesting hearing what people's favourites are. And I do apologise if, because some people can take that personally, if you leave out certain heavy hitters. I know I've left out the likes of Mega Man, Monster Hunter, and indeed Devil May Cry. I've dipped into Mega Man, and I've dipped into Monster Hunter. Not much, maybe 2 games in their entire series. Enjoyed it, but just never really held my attention enough to get into a top 5, to be honest. I did play Devil May Cry 1, 2, 3, possibly a chunk of 4, and I even played the reimagining or the remaster of the first one, with that new looking Dante. And they were fun, don't get me wrong, but I always, and maybe rose tinted glasses, but I always preferred Onimusha to Devil May Cry. And it's probably the age I was at when Onimusha came out, because to me this was like a splicing of, Resident Evil / Tenchu, just because there were swords and samurai and there was a bit of mysticism and magic and so on. I don't know how well they'd hold up now, truth be told, narratively and even from a gameplay point of view. But I never bonded with Devil May Cry as much as some people did. I think my nephews are very big fans of Dante and Devil May Cry, but it didn't really resonate with me, And as for the old, there's some really classic Capcom games. Some people are probably disappointed that the oldest I went back to was Street Fighter, I believe, which would be the early 90s. But that's the beauty it is. There's different opinions, different perspectives, different preferences and priorities and so on, So yeah, I think I shall love yous and leave yous there. Thanks Gull Payne for bringing this one to my attention. And if anybody else wants to get stuck in, please feel free to. I won't tag anybody in particular. We shall leave it there. Have a wonderful end to the year and beyond. Look after yourselves and each other. And be kind to all kinds and slán a bhaile.